to the hangout. This is Zoe, me, and Lala. Or we hang out and talk shit all day.
When I was a kid, me and my sister, we played a game where we pretended to chase monsters away. I'd say, no monster's gonna get you when I'm here. Then a real monster showed up. I have to find her.
What have you done with my sister? She's too far gone.
I have to try.
You've got
Are we still sisters?
Nothing is ever going to change that.
To be honest, I wasn't that excited for this show. Someone told me it's based on
so
a video game. And I'm just like, number one, I don't play the game. It's probably going to be a lot of things you have to know going into it based on the game. The game is so different from the story that you actually get in the show because the game is not about really the story. It's more like a team online strategy game. Off the bat, I'm just like, this doesn't sound like my sort of thing. But all the response that I was hearing coming out of the show was very similar to the response I was hearing coming out of Into the Spider-Verse. Everyone was talking about it's like this weird mix between like 3D and 2D animation. I can do for some good animation.
I jumped on it because everybody was like, oh my god, it's like the new Game of Thrones. I'm like, why is it everything that's good and big is automatically the new Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
And once I hear Game of Thrones, you know I'm jumping on.
If anything is like big armies fighting on Earth or any sort of like Earthbound looking thing, it's the new Lord of the Rings. If it's anything in space, it's the new Star Wars. And it feels like if there's anything political going on, there's any scheming in a castle, then it's the new Game of Thrones. First episode, I'm like, okay, this actually is very cool. And the stories got me intrigued. I wouldn't say I was fully hooked. But the first 2 episodes got me intrigued. The 3rd episode was where I was like, okay. This is feeling like episode 9, like Game of Thrones stuff. But it's episode 3 of the show. I'm like, the fact that you can get me to care so much about such a big moment in these characters' lives, and I barely know these characters. I've spent like 2 episodes with them. I was like, okay, the storytelling in this is special.
yeah.
And when you actually start the show, the first episode makes me think it's going to be like some sort of Goonies type adventure with a group of kids doing crimes, and they're like,
Robin Hood type of thing.
little Oliver Twist. I think that's just to lull you into a false sense of security, to make you think, oh, this is a quote-unquote kid story. So the stakes are going to be kid story stakes. Like worst case scenario, we get in a fight in the street, we lose the merchandise. Like nothing super serious is going to happen yet. But I will say the one thing that made me think like, but this feels a little off, is I had seen a trailer for the video game before. I think where I had seen the character of Jinx before. And I'm looking at Powder and I'm like, this character seems like a young version of that character. But that character from just the little 2-minute trailer I saw was a crazy psychopath. So I'm like, that can't be the same character. No, it can't be the same character.
Spoiler alert, it is.
Exactly. So I was like, if this person, is going to turn into that person,
How does she get there?
how do we get there? Now, here's one thing I'll say about this show. And I think it's a little bit of a plus and a minus. I feel like it's a plus for the things I care about, but I can see how some people could see it as a little bit of a minus, is that the show doesn't really spend time on anything that isn't crucially important to the plot. And every character almost gets like 1 or 2 beats to just establish them, and then they're off. They're on the races. It's time for you to do like the most important thing you're gonna do in your entire life, maybe, but definitely in the story. The first thing that made me notice that was with the villain, Silco, in the first episode. Like, number one, they introduce him at the very end of the first episode. He just gets a very short scene. But in that short scene, you find out he's got beef with the girl's adopted father, Vanda. You find out that he's already got an evil scientist already working for him that's already made some weird purple stuff that they're testing on rats, and it's already in development. Nothing is like, we will one day rise up. It's like, no, we're rising up tomorrow. Like, we already got everything lined up and stacked. We got these kids that we're going to experiment on. Like, tomorrow my plan, my like end of world, game-changing plan will be put into effect.
That.
Yeah, it's like no time.
There's no time to waste. Don't drag it out. Like, get to the point.
It's brilliant in terms of like every episode feels like something important's happening, something vital's happening. The story's constantly moving forward. They get to the point. Like, that's the whole thing with Arcane. It gets to the point and it moves past it. The one downside that I could see some people looking at it in is that a lot of the development, either relationships being developed, characters being developed, mental illness being developed, is rushed. It's like implied. It's like you have to just imagine this happened in between the scenes you're seeing, because we don't have time to show anything really to you. We can show you Jinx as a kid being like, you know, there's some sort of cracking happening, and then we cut to her as an adult and she's full-blown psychotic, and you can imagine the steps in between. Now, the only character that I feel like suffered a lot from this is Victor's lab assistant. When the Victor's doing his whole experiment on that weird glowing cube thing, and the lab assistant comes in to try to stop him and she dies, and it's supposed to be this very big, sad moment for Victor's life, and I just keep thinking, who's this person again?
Who are you? I need to meet you.
They didn't have time for her, you know? I think there's like one scene that's like, this is who this person is, this is how they relate to Victor. Next scene, they're dead. The most important thing that's going to happen to them happens in the second time we see them, basically.
I didn't feel like it was a negative, because Victor's assistant is not going to play any role to anything going forward.
Yeah.
And Victor is still alive to tell us how important she was to him. We don't need her to be around to tell us how important she is.
That's the problem. Like, even when you say, oh yeah, Victor can still tell us about his lab assistant, that's the thing about the show. The show is like, this is important to us. This character, and this character is important to anyone else. You're important by how you affect Jinx or Vi or whatever. So that's the way they want to tell the story. I think that's good in terms of like moving things quickly through the story. I like it. But if you're in it for I want to spend time with these characters, nah, you don't have time to spend with anyone. We've got things to do. Yeah, no. We don't have time for that. The style that they chose to go with is fast-paced. And I feel like that, especially when it comes to animation, is the way to go. Like, it's action-packed, there's a lot of pop music, like, it's fun. It's supposed to be kinetic. It's supposed to be moving forward. One of my favorite moments of the season was Echo, the fight between him and Jinx, where it keeps flashing back to them as children.
Oh, yes.
That was so cool. In the trailer, he has this ability where it's almost like, I don't know if he can see the future or if he can rewind time or something, but before every fight, it's like he watches the fight happen and then does the fight. That's just in the trailer. I don't know if how that works in the game itself, but so in that moment, it's almost like he was previewing that ability by flashing back to them as children playing the game. He's remembering, this is what she used to do. She used to shoot down and then up and then two to the chest and then this. And then he plays it out and then he knows how to dodge the bullet. Yeah. So I like that they're almost alluding to his game dynamics, I guess. When it comes to the politics of this world, the dynamic between the super rich elite and then the poor underclass, and we've kind of seen this before in your dystopian sci-fi Hunger Games type shows, and 9 times out of 10 those stories are just the top side of evil, the underside of the good guys. We're fighting with the underdogs to destroy the top. But this show, they really try to balance it out. and they try to show that there's good and bad on both sides, and good intentions can lead to bad outcomes. It's not just good and evil on either side. It's more complicated. But the one thing that I did feel like, you kind of undercutting this point of it's more complicated and both sides are messed up, because the top side is so far ahead. Like, as soon as they add magical technology, I'm like, y'all are teleporting to different countries and you still have poor people addicted to drugs, living in toxic fumes, not just across the street. It's underground in this toxic, like the smoke and gangs, and everyone's hooked on this purple juice. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are living in palaces, teleporting across the sky. Like, this is ridiculous.
I like the irony of how the people who are beneath them are literally
Beneath
them.
Yeah, no, it's very on the nose.
I'm like, damn, that shit kind of sucks.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, welcome to planet Earth. Isn't it a world like this? I like about shows like this is like it always has you looking at your own world that you live in. It's like, this is literally what we have created. It's like we're just watching ourselves back, but then with a little bit more fantasy and technology to make it look like, oh, it's not really happening yet.
Yeah.
But in reality, it is.
True. The greed part I get. The only problem with this is the more you add fantasy to it, the more you add magic and things that aren't real, the higher the responsibility on the people that control those things.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Had Heimerdinger, the little furry council member, adorable. He was talking about, okay, the responsibility, this could be used as weapons, this is dangerous, you have to work on it for a long time. Fine, I completely understand that. The only thing I don't get is there is never once throughout this entire show a conversation about we can use this stuff to make people's lives better. Closest they get to that conversation is we can use this technology for the mines and the people that work in the mines, which is essentially just more money for your big capitalistic enterprises.
Welcome to the real world.
That's it. That's the only conversation of we can use this for the poor, and it's only so the poor can work better for us. There's never a conversation of we can make the world a better place.
No, Victor does hint to it.
He hints
He's
at
from
it.
the underground,
Yeah.
and he wants to do better, but he's living with this upper class people who only care about themselves. So
Yeah.
he's like nobody wants to hear what he has to say because
That's
like
true.
you are nobody.
Okay, 100% I'll agree on the intentions of Victor.
Yeah.
But actions, lacking. I would say the only person who is actively dedicating their life to making the poor people of the Undercity's lives better is Echo. In a meaningful sense. Like, he's actually day to day out here helping the little kids, feeding people. But by the time I got to the end of the season, I'm like, you guys are ridiculously privileged at this point. Like, you started off the show having a better life than these people, but you end off the show as like gods that control magic and technology. And the best they have to fight back on the underground is we have a drug that makes us kind of strong, but then we all turn into fucking addicts and it ruins our lives.
James was literally my favorite character, but I was kind of annoyed with everybody comparing her to Harley Quinn. I get the comparison, but it's like, have we gotten to that point where whenever there is a mental ill person who's violent on TV is now, and is a female, is now Harley Quinn?
Yeah, if you give her a smile and a funny colored hair,
And then it's Harley
then
Quinn.
it's Harley Quinn.
I really feel like Jinx is she's one of the better portrayed villains who are suffering from mental health in the most recent years, especially when you compare her to the Joker. I understood why people were praising the presentation of Jinx's mental health, because when you look at the Joker kind of have it like, because he's mentally ill, then he's just violent. That's
Yeah,
it. And Jinx, it's like the Jinx, I just feel like they do it better because literally you see the conversation having, seeing the struggles that she has, and just wanting to be accepted and feeling guilty about everything that she has done, not being able to handle anything. And it's like you sympathize with her. She's a sympathetic character. It's not just like, oh, she's mentally ill, therefore she's violent.
Yeah, that's true. She's mentally ill and violent. But you can see a path where she wouldn't have been violent if she had been raised differently. Could have helped out Victor and Jace with their scientific magic stuff. Like, she also knows some stuff about that. But the bad part was that genius was in an environment, number one, that didn't respect genius. Because what they needed in that environment was physical strength.
Yeah.
At that time and place, she was just wrong. After Jinx's little bazooka, well, a little bigger than a bazooka, but that giant shark bomb that she dropped on the council chamber at the very end, what are your predictions moving forward? Because the one thing I'm thinking is, although we saw that hit the council window, I don't think all those people are dying.
No.
I don't think Jace is dying. I don't think Victor's dying.
I don't think Miranda is dying, which is my favorite character.
Oh, you don't think she's dying either?
No.
She was the closest to it, though.
I know, but I don't want her to die. Like,
The one thing that makes me think she's not going to die is right before that thing hits the window, you see that like gold thing she has on her back. It almost, I don't know if it was just for the effects of like the lights on the back.
Reflection, yeah.
Yeah, you see it light up, and I wasn't sure if it was just, letting you know that there's something coming from behind her, or if it was like she's activating some magic defense thing. Number one. But the one thing that makes me think, no, Mel is dying is the introduction of Mel's mom. It would almost be perfect that someone shows up like, I want a war. I really need a war. Daughter, you need to start a war. And the daughter's like, no, I'm not going to do it. We're going for peace. Then the daughter dies and the mother basically gets exactly what she has the perfect reason to go to war now. Your daughter died.
or it can be used as turning Miranda into a full villain.
Oh,
And
she joins her
she
mother.
joins her mother.
Yeah.
Because she has spent all of her time, saying they show mercy, and her mother saying you don't show mercy.
Yeah,
Because I'm
now
going
she
to
learned
suffer.
it.
Now she will learn it by getting hurt and watching her council member dying. Then she realizes that, you know what, maybe my mother was right. Mercy is for the weak, so I'm going to turn into a full-on villain and be my mother's daughter and lead with an iron fist.
Yeah.
That can be a possibility. The thing is, I don't want her to die.
It feels like there has to be a big death in that thing, or else it's just like that was the whole season built up to that. So to start next season, all the people we care about in that room are still alive and just the randoms are dead, then it's like, oh, thank God.
The way you make no, stop it. I feel like you're jinxing it. Like you just want Mary
It's
to
jinx.
die. You're jinxing it. That's not how you feel like she's going to die.
The only thing is that gold thing for me, because if you're talking practically speaking, not what we want or the story or this, practically speaking, a Jinx bomb, all Jinx's bombs are very effective. She knows how to kill a person. If she's trying to blow up that room, she will blow up that room. Victor is a half machine, half magical cyborg now. Jace has a giant hammer that can create a force field around him. We do not know any reason anyone else should survive.
She's going to survive and be badly injured, and then they're going to use their magical power and advanced technology
That
to
could
bring
work.
her back to
That
life.
could
But
work.
she cannot die. If she dies, I'm suing Netflix for personal injuries and emotional distress, because
Yeah.
I will be sad.
Definitely. What do you think is going to happen with the war? Because Jace said, one thing I noticed from my little trial run is if we ever go to war with you people, we will annihilate you. Like, we're so far ahead with our technology and stuff. It's not even close.
I basically do not see a full-blown out war happening in season 2, because it would be like Game of Thrones when Khaleesi with her dragons go to King's Landing. It's
Just-
game
it's gonna be too
over.
easy,
It's gonna
yeah.
be too easy. So
And like, the future of this might be them showing how powerful their technology is on the Undercity, and that leading to more problems with other nations. And now Mel's mother and whatever see this new technology and be like, you guys have what?
And it's like, no.
We want that.
I have experience. I want you to succeed here, Jace. To grace the world with Hextech. But if you don't accept certain realities, I fear you'll end up like General Parlek. Slaughtered with your eyes closed.
Of Heimerdinger.
So I feel like he is the one ray of hope we have at the end of the season. Him and Echo are actually two good people that met up together to make the world a better place. Yeah. In that sense, it's going to be chaos around them, but they're going to be the one thing that we can hope will get better. And I guess to a certain extent, Caitlin and Vi are good people, but I don't know how they can really go in a good direction after this. I feel like, especially for Vi, you have to hunt down your sister, right? You can't keep being, she's still powder in there after she does this.
Yeah.
But I guess she's done a lot of bad things and she's still been forgiven. Animation was definitely a highlight. So that's something that stood out. Another thing I would say in terms of characters, I really liked Silco. Because Silco was one of the few characters that constantly surprised me. When they first introduced him, I'm like, the evil guy with the scarred face and the red eye. I wonder who the bad guy is. Yeah. I wonder. So it seems a little too straightforward. But then when he doesn't kill Jinx, when she was still powder, and adopts her, I'm like, okay. So he's the Fagin type. He's gonna mind wipe this kid. And he'll be like the emperor, you know, he's like, I'm going to use you to send you out there to whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's just another type of evil, but still just the evil guy. And then it seemed like, oh no, he genuinely cares about this girl to the putting other things in jeopardy. He's losing respect from his people because they're like, Jinx got in the way. And he keeps forgiving her. When he gets to the very end and she has shot him and he's bleeding out and he's still saying, you're perfect. This is not your fault. It's okay. I'd never give you to her. I was like, wow, okay. I did not expect from where you meet him, and I never thought this would be the place where he ends.
I like how they presented him on the show because it works perfectly well with Jinx and her mental illness, because I feel like he's the only one who understands that the things that she does are way beyond her control. Like, she's not fully in control of her mind and her emotions all the time. So I feel like he kind of like that outside voice that goes like, I understand you. I'm not saying you can use mental illness as an excuse to do vile things in life, but it kind of like that person that just by your side that actually just understand that some of the things you do, you don't intend to. If that person that just understands how mental illness works and doesn't actually want to help you out because it's benefiting from your craziness, but at the same time, he will never forsake you and condemn you because he understands that you are not in control of it either.
And I think he also relates to it a little bit because I think, especially in the beginning when she was talking about she's not my sister anymore, I think he felt the same about Vanda, where he was like, we were brothers and now we're not brothers anymore. So I think he related to her hurt and her heartbreak. Maybe he's not as crazy as her, but I feel like he could see some of himself in her. For season 2, hopefully it's just as dope as season 1, please.
So let's do the rating of this season.
Oh, this is my favorite show of the year. 10 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
10 out of 10?
100%.
Wow. Let's go with that. It's a 10 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you. We'll see you next time.